Meet me. Vroom vroom. I love motorcycle. Welcome back, boys, to another Squirrely Hero review. Today, we're going to talk about Last Rider Krau. He's been pretty dominant in the meta lately. I'm sure all of you guys have realized that by now. So let's go ahead and talk about him. As always, we will cover his skills, his builds. We'll do a quick little showcase, and then we'll do a summary. So let's get started. Alright, so ML Krau's abilities. His S1 is very basic, but it does have damage increase proportional to health, so it actually hits for a decent amount. It also gives him a one-turn speed buff, which means that he turn cycles pretty damn fast, because that's 30% more speed. If I could just click on it here, and you normally build him pretty fast to begin with, 200 plus, so that means he actually cuts a lot of people, and with the damage proportional to max HP, he actually hits for a decent amount if you max Mola. Maybe like a 4K crit, which is nothing to sneeze at for a Bruiser Knight. His S2, code number 00, it's a stupid name for a move. Anytime he gets hit by an AoE attack, it decreases the cooldown of his S3 by one turn. So depending on heroes, especially something like SSB, he uses his S3 a lot. On top of that, he gets a barrier for all his allies for one turn. The barrier is pretty small, but I mean, against an SSB or something like that, he's proccing it all the time, so it's definitely some pretty significant damage reduction in the long run, and it will save you in quite a few situations. His S3, this is the move that makes him classic. So he summons a motorcycle, which is still named the same as his horse, and he attacks all enemies before granting a 2-turn immunity to your entire team. On top of that, this is one of the moves that penetrates defense. We all know how strong Death Pen abilities are in PvP right now. Things like Blood Moon Haste have become very popular because of the Death Pen. For the Soul Burn, it just decreases the skill cooldown for 2 turns, doesn't do more damage, but it is a very good Soul Burn because if you have him burn it, and then you're up against something like an SSB or any other hero that has a lot of AoE attacks, I have seen it before where he can back-to-back S3 if the other team has a lot of AoE abilities. So this is a very powerful move in PvP, but we'll talk about that more in the summary. So let's move on to the next section. So how do you build ML Krau? Nothing really special, to be honest. You kind of just build him like every other knight in the game. You want very high HP, probably more than me because all his moves scale off max HP. I have more defense than I need instead of HP. That's just an issue with my gear. If you could get him to like 1500, 1600 defense and push the HP up to more like 25, 26k, it would probably be better. Speed, you want a minimum of 200. At the high end, I did see LR Kraus that were running like 240, 250. They probably had godly gear. And effect resist is up to you. A lot of people do like to have at least like 90 effect resist to resist stuff from your standard bruiser. But if you don't, you can mitigate it somewhat by having immunity. But a little bit of effect resist is good. I don't think most people will bump it higher than 100 because they don't want to sacrifice these other stats too much. So basically, get around 25k attack. 25k HP, 25k attack, that'd be vicious. 25k HP, at least 200 speed, and as much effect resistance and defense as you could spare while getting those stats. For artifact choices, pretty much anything is a good choice. I see a lot of people running Adamant. I like Adamant, but I've also seen things like Justice for All, Hilog Lance, the AoE Hilog, I forget what it's called. You can even use Aureus, although I'd advise against it because normally a lot of people want to kill LR Krau. You don't want to make it easier for them by putting an Aureus on him, which is why I prefer Adamant. But so many good knight artifacts. I think JFA is actually quite strong on him, but I don't have an extra copy. So just run whatever you think is going to be best the way you plan on using him. With that, let's move on to the PvP showcase. Alright, so let's try LR Krau on offense. We're going to bring no DPS here because we want most of the damage to come from LR Krau. I mean, the thing about LR Krau on PvP offense, like I said, is he's not very flashy, but he gets the job done. So here we go. They open on G-Purge. We're getting all those nice CR pushes. Boom. And now we can just start getting to work on him. And I think I'm going to cleanse my LR Krau with Ruel. I think my Ruel will probably resist this, but who knows? Maybe it's 200 effectiveness Tenebria. Oh god, they actually slept the Ruel. I only resisted the Death Break. Crayon goes on G-Purge. My G-Purge is very thick. Now the stun on G-Purge. But luckily we're just getting pushed all over the place now. So I'm going to actually heal the G-Purge so he can unleash the goats. Perfect. And let's goat them. Moo! 2 big stuns there. Nice. There we go. And I think we can get to work on controlling them now. Poke this thing. And now we can burn the horse boy. So here we go. Motorbike time. Vroom, 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 vroom. Pretty solid damage. Almost wipes him out. And we only have to wait 5 turns for it to be back up. And with Kayron AoE attacking, it'll only help push us up even more. We're going to heal up FCC here because I want them to switch to General Purges. Room. And maybe we'll just, doesn't really matter what I kill. They're dead already. We still have the immunity, so we'll proc the immortality here. And ML Krau only has 1 turn left on the motorhorse. Perfect. We'll just poke this thing. Vroom. Vroom. Okay. Let's heal up ML Krau. Because he's going for that full wipe in a second here. More AoEs. And now it's game over. Motorhorse time. Vroom. And this fight is a wrap. Let's try another one. Alright, let's try another one. This time we're going to give FCC a break. I talked to her, she said she's kind of tired, so ML Krau said he's the only knight that's needed. He's kind of cocky, he's kind of a dick, but we'll see. We'll see if he can. So here we go. They open on ML Krau. Now Broman goes and screws with us. Oh, no. That ML Broman sucks, so now we get to Motorbike. Vroom. And look at that. 50% of that team's life is instantly gone. Vroom. And we'll just give him a little baby heal here. He's fine. A little bit of Alexa's, -1 turn cooldown. We will ravage them with some goats. 2 of them get goated. And here we go. Hopefully procs the AoE here. Ah, no AoE. So we'll just slam into this annoying little acid. You know what? We'll just invincibility the ML Krau. Who cares? We kind of want to keep the Broman alive because he's the only one that really has consistent AoE attacks. And now they should switch to Ruel, I believe. Boop. AoE? No AoEs, so we'll just go ahead and attack them. We don't really care if Ruel dies now, so let's trigger the revive from Arbiter. Boom, boom. Here he comes. He gets the greater attack, which of course is pretty scary. Boom, 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 boom. Ooh, hurts real bad. But we can slam this Broman. Alright. And notice how Broman's much faster than LR Krau, but I'm still getting turns because of the speed buff. And now we can motor horse again. Room. And they're pretty much wiped out at this point, and with the speed buff, LR Krau will cut, and game over. So that's pretty much LR Krau in a nutshell on offense, guys. Again, nothing too flashy, but he does do pretty consistent, respectable damage. So let's move on to the summary. Alright, so as always, let's summarize. LR Krau, is he good? Very strong hero. Very strong hero, particularly in RTA. We'll see if some of the new RTA changes kind of hurts him a little bit, but for last season, Endeavor season, he was very meta to be sure. So let's talk about him. Arena offense, I'm going to give him a solid B. So it's not so much, again, like a lot of these times, like I give a hero a B, people are like, oh, so you think he's bad? It's not that he's bad. It's that arena offense, you typically want it to be kind of fast, right? Unless you're like a masochist. And if you use LR Krau on offense, in most cases it means it's a slow match unless you're using him against a speed cleave. But he kind of is good in the same way that regular Krau's good in arena offense. If you want to bring a knight for damage mitigation, but still have some damage output, he's fantastic because his S3 actually does do pretty solid damage. But if you're using him, you're basically committing to like a 3 to 5 minute arena match, which is not my favorite, which is why I'm giving him a B. But he's definitely very effective. Arena defense, I'm going to give him an A minus. He is very usable on arena defense, especially against cleavers, because if it turns out they can't kill you because you built a really tanky team, he can almost one-shot cleave teams, especially with a combination of him and FCC. Between those two S3s, he could wipe out a cleave team, so he's always kind of scary. And because something like a Judge Keisei, that extra barrier he puts up does help a lot. So I'm going to give him a solid A minus, but, you know, things like ML Sigrid, you know, if he puts up the barrier, I mean, usually he's paired with FCC, so it's very easy to bust through these teams sometimes. And other than the S3, he usually ends up not doing a whole lot, but still definitely good because he's a knight and he could bring damage mitigation. Guild Wars offense, I'm going to give him a solid A. I've been using him a lot in Guild Wars offense. The combination of him being a knight and being able to carry those damage mitigation artifacts and do a solid amount of AoE damage, and the immunity, can't forget about the immunity, very key in a lot of matchups. I've been using him a lot in Guild Wars offense, definitely very solid. Guild Wars defense, I'm going to give him like a B. I usually don't struggle at all with LR Kraus on defense, based on my experience. I think it's not so much that he's bad, it's just, again, outside the S3, he doesn't do a whole lot on defense, and he's very easy to bait with some kind of dark bait, and he just spends like 6 turns spamming. And in Guild Wars offense, it's very easy to just not bring any AoE attacks, which means he's not using his S3 all that often. So Guild Wars defense, I think, is one of his more lacking areas. That's fine. RTA, he's an obvious S. He was all over the meta last season. He was a very common pre-ban. If you watched my first impressions video, that was the category that I expected him to thrive in, because a lot of people were worrying a lot about his multipliers, but I said because it penetrates defense, with stacking with the battle frenzy, that means eventually he's going to one-shot your team. Definitely not the first turn, because that would be imba as hell, but later on, once everyone loses all their HP and he's tanky to begin with, and it stacks up to 3 times the damage, eventually with Battle Frenzy, he can wipe people out, and that's what ended up happening. People started building stalled teams and just waiting till he wiped people out. So RTA, definitely a very strong hero. So anyways, that's my review of LR Krau. Again, very, very powerful hero, very meta right now. I think with some of the RTA changes emphasizing, damage coming out more quickly, it might hurt him a bit, but I doubt enough to knock him out of the meta or anything. But it looks like Smilegate is trying to shift the RTA meta away from stall comps. So anyways, if you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. Till next time, boys, peace out.